Xbox, Microsoft, AI. We've seen a lot of backlash towards them using it for game creation. We have another example here, and people are pretty pissed off about it. The Minecraft movie is doing insane numbers here, which is funny based off of some of the reactions that I have seen online in regards to the movie and just the overall experience. Game Pass is getting another big game here from EA. Third party developers are talking about the Nintendo Switch 2, the Power, and how they feel about the Power. We'll go over that because we've heard third party developers talk about the Xbox Series S. Is it the same sentiment here with the Nintendo Switch 2? We also have some other information here on the Switch game cards, a new Ubisoft game. We have information on that, which it looks like it's an interesting direction that they are going. And Schedule One, which is a game that has taken off here. It looks like it could be in some trouble, but we will go over all of those things. And before we do, if you enjoy daily gaming news, daily gaming content, make sure to hit the subscribe button, share the video, like the video. Many of you who do watch here on a daily basis, I see from my analytics when I go through it, are not subscribed. You watch, but you aren't subscribed. So I would appreciate it if you just hit that big red subscribe button to help the channel grow. But for now, let's jump into it. So AI and Xbox has been something that they have been talking about and working on here for a while. If you remember, they came out with their Muse model here, their AI model Muse, which they say can generate game visuals, controller actions, gameplay, all of those types of things. People were wondering how this was going to be used. They specifically used Bleeding Edge and showed that they were actually able to recreate gameplay and controller input and all of those things from using this Muse AI. It instantly brings up a negative reaction around the industry, specifically, obviously, from developers whose biggest worry is that AI is going to come in and take over jobs within the gaming industry. And I think that will happen to some extent. The question is, to how much of an extent? What types of jobs will it overtake? Will it make games better and more immersive? And will this be better for the industry, even though some people are going to end up losing their jobs at the end of the day? We don't know, have all the answers, but there definitely is a lot of pushback against this, especially because people think that AI is just being brought in here to save money and to feed the needs of the corporations to get those bigger profit margins. And it's not slowing down. The reality is AI is coming to gaming, but in how much and what type of form. And Microsoft is looking like they're at the forefront of this, and there's a lot of negativity towards them because of it. Well, they showed off a version of Quake 2 that was powered entirely by generative AI. And again, of course, it's being received very negatively. And I mean, I look at this, I look at the video that they did put out, and I don't have any interest in trying out this version of Quake, but my thought does go towards the technology side of it and actually being able to develop the technology to be able to create something like this is somewhat interesting. I'm not going to lie. It's not all negative from my mindset. It's actually kind of interesting from how they were able to do this, but how will this translate into actually helping game development? That is the question a lot of people have. They say here, Microsoft has launched the Quake 2 demo, which can be played via the web browser on Microsoft's website to show off the capabilities of Muse, but insisted that it does not intend for this to fully replicate the actual experience of playing the original Quake 2. And they also add here, whilst we feel it is incredibly fun to play a simulated version of the game inside the model, there are, of course, limitations and shortcomings of our current approach. They say here that you can see in the current length and context of this video gameplay at 9 frames, at 10 FPS, and all these things. It is very juddery. I mean, it is not the best example, I don't believe, as to how they can use this type of generative AI. No one's really going to want to jump in and actually play this thing. And if you go down here, there are some pretty big reactions here. Tim Sweeney saying much game, very Quake, puts this meme out here. And there's a lot of replies here to Jeff Keighley, who posted this as well, saying, we made a program that vaguely and inaccurately imagines what it might look like if we were playing Quake 2 right now. One of the replies reads, it requires all the same equipment you could instead use to actually play Quake 2, but requires a billion times more electricity. This person here says, this is absolutely effing disgusting and spits on the work of every developer everywhere. So there's some very, very strong worded responses here to this. And in fact, if we go down here, we could see some more responses. Hard pass. I only play games made by human developers and I plan to keep it that way. The Aquaman says Microsoft will literally do anything but develop real video games. This person says this feels extremely disconnected from what you said just 4 months ago about the insane and devastating developer layoffs. Wow, it's dog shit. This is cool. Say what you want about AI, but you can't deny that this is pretty dope. Now, I think the technology behind it, how we're at a point that this can actually happen is interesting. And it's interesting to see how this will evolve. But again, the question is, where do they go from here? Do they exploit it to an extent where they know that they can just put out garbage and just shitty games that people will buy if they have a strong IP attached to it? I think that is one of the biggest issues and one of the biggest worries from gamers as to how this is going to be used. And then obviously on the development side, if they're replacing the creatives that create these games because they can just use AI and pull from the decades of work that has already been completed, that as well will be very worrisome for new creativity and new work coming out in the future. We are at a point where we have seen within arts new ideas and new IPs and creativity, I think, has gotten less and less throughout the years as we're seeing lots of remakes and remasters for video games coming out over and over and over again. And I have a fear here that AI, because we're moving towards regurgitating the same things, reusing the same things to make money because the IPs are strong, AI is just going to exacerbate that problem. So we will see. But I do think the tech is cool and hopefully you have companies that use it responsibly and don't just exploit it to make as much money as possible. But I know what the response is going to be from a lot of people. They don't believe that that will ever happen. It will just be exploited via the corporate overlords who have this technology in their hands. So we'll see. But it looks like Xbox and Microsoft are at the forefront of this, and they're going to be getting a lot of feet every single time they put out something like this using generative AI. Okay, let's talk the Minecraft movie. I have no interest whatsoever in seeing this movie. I may down the line when it comes out on like streaming platforms and everything, just for the fun of it, because we've heard so many bad things about it being one of the worst video game movies ever made. But we're also seeing that it is one of the best theater experiences. If you go on social media, there have been lots of funny examples and explanations as to what people's experiences were like going into the theater, kids yelling and screaming and clapping, and it just kind of being a fun experience to watch the movie because the movie is so bad that you don't even really need to pay attention to it. None of this matters. Minecraft is a massive IP and it made a ton of money here for Minecraft, for Xbox, for Microsoft, because they own the IP here. And here is what they say. The Minecraft movie has surpassed expectations with an opening weekend of 157 million in the US, the best ever for a video game adaptation. And previously, Nintendo and Illumination Super Mario Bros. Movie held the record for the largest start for a video game adaptation in the US at 146 million. They say that Mario still holds the record internationally. However, at 377 million, the Minecraft movie is estimated by Variety to have managed around 301 million. So it beat Super Mario in the US. And they say the total represents a huge leap over what many analysts expected Minecraft to manage in its opening weekend, with analytics projecting between 70 and 90 million. But overall, the reviews are staggeringly bad, rated 49% on the review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, saying this film is drawing like a coveted 5-quadrant movie, appealing broadly to everyone, younger and older adults, as well as young teens and kids. And they continue to talk about how the reviews are bad. But I mean, the reality is when you make something that appeals to children, when it's such a popular IP like Minecraft, it's going to make a ton of money regardless of how good the product actually is. And you could kind of take this and extrapolate it out to the future of games when you're seeing these younger generations really only care about Minecraft, only caring about Fortnite, right? So this is where these companies see their future and where they're going to continue to make money. It's in these younger generations that are continuously just playing the same things over and over and over again and wanting to see film and movie adaptations about it. They don't care what devices they're playing on. I think that's a major reason here why you're seeing stuff in the industry happen and expanding out where games are available. I know that's a kind of a weird connection here to make with with this movie, but Minecraft is a huge IP, and kids who are playing it today are going to be playing it in 10 years from now if this game continues to be around, which I am sure it will, and that they keep evolving it. So pulling them away from these IPs that they love now is going to be hard in the future with new stuff that are trying to break into these styles of genres of games, which is why you see a lot of multiplayer and games as a service games fail right when they do come out. But crazy, a terrible movie making insane amount of money simply because of the IP and it being appealing to children. All right, let's talk Game Pass. It's getting another big game here from EA, and that is NHL 25, just in time for the start of the NHL playoffs, which is kind of what happens every single year. And this is a big thing for me, at least with Game Pass, is getting these games all in there. I know they're coming at some point. I don't need to go out and pick them up and play them day one because they will all drop in there with EA Play as a part of Game Pass Ultimate. But it is coming here on April 10th. So this week you're going to be able to jump into play NHL 25. And I think that's on top of college football that's in there. I believe Madden is in there. FIFA's in there. So all these games are all dropping into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate as obviously they prepare for the upcoming year of sports game releases. And now that these are 6 months down the line, they've made all the money of the people who purchase the roster update day one, who've spent all their money on those Ultimate Team card packs, which I absolutely hate. So now they can go ahead and put it in Game Pass and try to get more people to play it and spend more money on the microtransactions that riddle these yearly sports titles. Okay, let's talk Nintendo Switch 2. Pre-orders are on Wednesday. I'm going to be trying to get one, as I've said multiple times on this channel. And one of the things with the Switch 2 is that it is a nice upgrade in power over the current Nintendo Switch. And it's not really saying much because it's still going to be less powerful than the current generation consoles with PS5 and the Xbox Series X and probably even the Xbox Series S. Nvidia does say it's 10 times more powerful than the Nintendo Switch. It does have DLSS. It will have ray tracing, which I think is a pretty cool thing there that they will give it an advantage, especially for lower powered devices. DLSS will be able to work its magic and give visuals that look far better than they could on the hardware natively. So that's pretty cool to see. Third parties have commented on the actual horsepower of the Nintendo Switch 2, and apparently it's making them extremely happy, which is a head scratcher simply because when you compare about some of the things that were said about the Xbox Series S, which I believe is still more powerful here than the Nintendo Switch 2. This is speaking to GameFile, which is Stephen Totillo's publication. And he's speaking here with Dennis Shirk. And specifically, when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 and working on it, they say it's been easy. They say their software development kit is great. The customer support, their developer support, developer relations is great. They knew they wanted Civ on that platform because it's such a great showcase for the mouse, which is the first thing I thought about when they showed off that game at the Direct. And it pairs up so well with our existing PC audience because we have crossplay. And they say that the Switch 2 version of the game was in development since October, is set to release and be available on launch day on June 5th. Other developers such as Hogwarts Legacy developer Avalanche Software has been working on porting to the Switch 2 for around a year, saying, "We originally started with our Switch version. We got very good results really quickly, but we felt like we could make a higher quality product if we brought in a lot of the high res assets and raised the resolution, textures, lighting, world streaming." They go on here to say a notable change between the Switch 2 version of Hogwarts Legacy and the original is that several large loads have been removed, such as when entering Hogsmeade Village. So these developers here for two massive games, I will say, that will be launching on the Nintendo Switch. Big games that will have a lot of people looking at them, wanting to play them. To me, Civ 7 on the Switch 2 is very appealing because of those mouse controls. I mean, a PC would be the main place I think that I would want to play Civ 7. But if you are looking at the Switch 2 with its portability factor and now mouse controls and graphics and everything don't really matter that much in a game like Civilization. I mean, yes, it adds to the experience, but the graphics on the Switch 2, I'm sure will be fine with it. It is very enticing because you can take that thing, prop it up on the stand anywhere you are, take off the Joy-Con and start using the mouse controls, which I think will be a far better experience than just using the in-hand controllers when playing Civ 7. So stuff like that to me has me very intrigued about how much is the mouse going to be used on the Nintendo Switch 2. Well, traditional PC games start thinking we want to develop a Switch 2 version because of the controls and because the install base on the Nintendo Switch is very big, and they're going to assume that the Switch 2 install base is also going to be very big. So I think we're going to get a lot of cool experiences here on the Nintendo Switch 2 if it doesn't get hampered down by all of the negativity that has affected it at launch with the pricing and everything. And we'll see how big the launch is, but the mouse controls for games like Civ 7, I definitely do want to try that out and just see how good it feels, as well as games like Metroid Prime 4 that they showed off using the mouse aiming. Hopefully, when you're seeing games like Call of Duty jump onto the Switch 2, you're going to have that option too to take off that Joy-Con and use a mouse for aiming, because that will be a nice addition, especially for first person shooters. Now, when it comes to physical games and upgrades from the previous generation to the current generation, we've had two methods that have gone through here. And it really, I think, brings to light the consumer friendliness of Xbox and how they have knocked it out of the park with certain things when it comes to this generation. And they do it way better than PlayStation. And it looks like they're going to be doing it way better than Nintendo as well. And that is just simply the upgrades from last gen to this gen. With Xbox, you pop in your disc or you load up your digital game on your Xbox Series X. And if it was an Xbox One game that had an upgrade, you get that upgrade. It just does it. It's just seamless and it works very well. PlayStation, if you remember throughout the beginning, first years of this generation, so many issues with upgrades, people buying the wrong version and not actually getting the PS5 version. It was a mess for them. And now with the Nintendo Switch to the Nintendo Switch 2, I wonder if those same problems are going to occur. But one thing that is happening that is far worse than Xbox is that you're still paying for that upgrade. And in fact, it looks like if you are a collector of video games and you wanted to get the Switch 2 version of, let's say, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you were thinking it was going to be something different than what is currently on the Switch in the box and everything. Looks like that is not the case, unless this does get updated later by Nintendo. But we do have this here saying that physical Nintendo Switch 2 edition games are reportedly Switch 1 carts with codes in the box, which for a lot of people, especially on the Nintendo side, because they like having those games on these shelves, will be extremely disappointing. For me, it's very disappointing. Like, I would have liked to just pick up a Switch 2 version of this game and it'd be unique comparatively to the Switch 1 version. But it says here the cover of Nintendo Switch 2 Edition game reads, includes the Nintendo Switch game and the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition upgrade pack. Upgrade pack also available separately. And we have this here. Does it play? They finally got a response here from Nintendo as to exactly how this does work. And again, this could be updated, who knows, because customer service isn't always 100% correct. Sometimes they do make mistakes, but I feel like this one is correct. Does a play on Blue Sky saying, according to Nintendo's own support, the Switch 2 Enhanced Editions were false advertising during the Direct. After trying to nail them down for an answer, they confirmed to one of our followers it's just Switch 1 cards with a code for the upgrade. No reason to buy these then. And then this is what they say. Thank you for your reply. Yes, we can confirm that the upgrades will be download codes. Thank you for your understanding. If you have any further questions, it is download codes within the box, which sucks, especially for collectors who wanted a physical version of the Switch 2 versions of those games. That is actually a big thing out there, and now it just seems kind of useless. And it also, I think, adds on to the nickel and diming for upgrades when there's just a digital code. This is something they could have absolutely given to people for free for just upgraded resolutions and upgraded frame rates and go along the Xbox route, but they didn't. And people are going to eat up these upgrades, especially for games that just did not run very well on the Nintendo Switch. That upgrade from the Nintendo Switch to the Nintendo Switch 2, I think, will be actually a far more significant boost, especially if you're getting 60 frames per second in handheld and everything, versus going from like the Xbox One to the Xbox Series X version of games. All right, Ubisoft. They're developing a new turn-based tactics game in the Rainbow Six universe. And I think we've been hearing about them expanding out Rainbow Six more to new styles. They're releasing Rainbow Six Siege X with some nice upgrades to it. It looks pretty good. And now turn-based tactics game is set in this universe. I think this could be a very smart move, and I think there's a lot you can do with all the different characters within Rainbow Six Siege. So this comes via Insider Gaming. It's an exclusive report, And they say that Ubisoft is developing a new turn-based tactics game set in the same universe as Rainbow Six Siege. It was said that the new Rainbow Six Siege game is likely 1 or 2 years out, but is aiming to be released as a current generation console title for the Series X, S, PS5, PC, and possibly the Nintendo Switch too. I would put my money on the Nintendo Switch to release now, and it's one of those things that I wonder if they're going to be implementing mouse controls for a turn-based tactics game, because that would make a ton of sense. And they say two sources have knowledge of the game said that the camera is a top-down view somewhat similar to Diablo 4 or XCOM, and would see the player take control of Rainbow Six Siege operators. And one source has said, just watch some XCOM gameplay if you want to get an idea. I'd say it's an updated version of that with cinematic cutscenes and so on. And I think that will be very, very appealing to a lot of people, because XCOM is a very beloved game. And now you're bringing the Rainbow Six Siege universe, that style of game. I think that could actually do very well. I think it will sell well. I think it would do good on PC, and then, of course, on the consoles as well. The question is, how well will the controllers be mapped? They've done a lot better job in general, developers, of taking generally PC traditional games, mapping console controllers to it, and it's usually a good experience. So I'm pretty interested. I think this will be fun. I can't wait to see more about this Rainbow Six Siege tactics game. And finally, Schedule One. This is a game that has just gotten huge. I've never played it. I don't even know too much about it, but it looks like they are potentially in trouble here. They are being investigated for IP copyright infringement. So there's a claim here going around, and specifically, it says that evidence on the investigation surfaced on the website Pop Business, featuring a document titled Movie Games SA Decision to Commence Investigation Against the Creators of Schedule 1 Production for claims regarding the infringement of the issuer's IP and related to committing an act of unfair competition against it. And the legal document also mentions potential infringement of the issuer's intellectual property rights and activities that may bear the characteristics of unfair competition have been identified. This is a massive game. It hit a peak of over 400,000 players and continues, they say, to bring in wheelers and dealers each day. So it's massive. It's on Steam, doing very, very well. And you saw a similar thing here that happened with Palworld. When these games seemingly come out and do very good right away, somebody's looking into it to see if they can get them on anything. I mean, Palworld, you had the whole Pokemon thing with it, and now you're having this here, and we'll see if there's any validity to this claim, if it does get followed, if it does go further in court, and all of that. But I'm gonna end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.